Okay, so my name is Mariana. I represent Studio MK27 here. We're going to show the interior design for Fasano Hotel.
Os seus olhos rasos d'água que traz os seus olhos rasos d'água. Meu bem, por que estás assim tão triste? Alguma gota em você existe. A tristeza, amor, só
This was an excerpt of a Fellini film tuned with the Brazilian music, just to bring a little bit of the intention of the new Fasano brand in São Paulo, which is to join a little bit of the Brazilian warmth with this elegance and attention to details from Italy. This is a hotel that sits in a very corporate area, a very intense part of the city, full of towers, very dense, also residents and services, restaurants, but it sits in the very edge, so it enjoys a view of a very residential green area. And the first challenge for the interior design was actually to organize the layout into a core and shell that was inherent. It was pre-approved. And we need to organize it to make a facade that could be a bit regular and that would show some level of organization. And then we created this frame around it, sitting in this very chaotic with very ugly buildings around. And the materiality expressed already started working a little bit with the values. It's a frame board concrete, so it has the marks of the wood, it has a certain imprecision, and the warm bronze for the brand brings a little bit the elevated and fancy Italian part. And then the entrance is through a pilotis, which is evoking a little bit of our modernist inheritance. The brown bricks in the side facade are an element we brought from the first Fasano, which is in a much more fashion, funky neighborhood. Then we organized the ground floor longitudinally. The yellow part is the back of house services and a big kitchen. And the gray part, we took advantage of the modularity of the very robust structure that we inherit, and we created different moments, a sequence of moments. The first one being a more serene one, the reception, then two very intense living room, very homey, full of different corners. Then the bar that transitions you to the crown part of the brand, which is the restaurant. Fasano was created in the 50s by an Italian immigrant family. And so they were a restaurant until the 90s when we designed their first hotel. So it was all about trying to unite expressively this tradition of Italian values and cuisine with the intensity, the warmth, and the relationship to nature, the intense relationship to nature we have in Brazil. And then we evoked a 7-year relationship we've been growing with the Minotti family, this important furniture manufacturer from Italy. This is the first moment I told that is a bit more empty. There's a view that mediates the relationship with this very chaotic, full of motorbikes around the hotel. Then a see-through shell that separates this for the homey spaces afterwards, and it starts serving as a support for a storytelling with Murano glasses, Brazilian ceramics. And then here, it's like 90% of the pieces are Minotti, and let's say out of this, 80% were our designs. And then we punctuate this with vintage findings from mid-century Brazilian pieces, trying to give a layer of time into the design rather than one thing that would look shopped at once. The first collection we used very widely is the Daiki collection. It's a homage we paid to the Okura Hotel in Tokyo. And I think this was Japanese, but full of textures and warmth that we wanted to evoke. You know, São Paulo is the largest colony of Japanese outside Japan. So we wanted to bring this multiculturalism as a value, as an important part of our identity. And this is the daiki in one chair, the lamps, the mid-century lamps punctuating a very strong atmosphere around this, and trying to enhance the possibilities for encounters and conversations. And it really is a urban equipment, this lobby. It's not just for guests, but rather all citizens come for a little coffee or to work a bit while waiting someone. The second collection we used widely was Brasilia, which is a homage to our capital. It's very straight lines, very horizontal, very Cartesian organization with rich wood, the wooden panels, the Brazilian Frejol wooden panels, and then a little storytelling of the Fasano history in black and white pictures. This is Japanese lamps that really, I think, create a sense of ownership to the people using the space and being able to move the lamps around the space. This is how it usually looks, like with different layouts, different setups. The bar has a very domestic scale as well, as the waiter is a little bit lower and the chairs get to be a dining normal chair, not a stool. And then you go down a few steps, and to give an importance, a bigger ceiling height to the restaurant that is actually the origins of the brand. The brown bricks, and a little joke of Don Corleone and Nono Rogerio, the founder of the Fasano. Then the hotel breakfast restaurant sits on the second floor, where we open this very horizontal window and we reconnect with the city greenery around, and very third world wires, electric wires. So I think it speaks a lot about where you are. Then the rooms show a very important attention to details, a lot of stories connected and composed. This is Sergio Rodrigues' mid-century design. The lamps are a collaboration with a very young designer from Brazil, Ana Noite. And the light, the textures, the depth, I think in everything there's a little bit of care and loving. The marbles are Brazilian, which I think are very newly used in architecture. They also hold a lot of color, like the green or the ochre that you see, and bring a little bit of the nature. This is a fluted marble that also creates this depth and this feeling of care and attention. The importance of light, the subtle light in creating the ambiences. And then the rooftop, like we managed to squeeze a little swimming pool there and create and find a crack in the chaotic system for some fun, which I think is also something very Brazilian, that we find these little opportunities for messing around. And this is the bar, much more informal, so it's a rooftop, but it's still made of rattan lamps, a very intense layout, and the connection with the skyline of the city. I think we take a lot of pride in this project because it is, and the Fasano brand, because it is an opportunity to speak about Brazil in a more refined way, so it's not the cliche, usual precarios, samba and soccer. So, and it's something that speaks more broad about our complex society and our inheritance of design and architecture.
I think it's my turn to ask a question. Did your clients insist on using Minotti?
Yes, he wanted very much, and the Minotti family was also very proud to do the collaboration.
I'm sure they were.
Yeah.
They'd love to sell their furniture.
Yes, but actually here I don't think it was very profitable because it had to be an arrangement, right? Because
Well, you wouldn't have been able to afford it because
I
of
don't
Brazilian
think so.
import
No,
taxes.
also importing things in Brazil is
Very
something
expensive.
complicated, but I think they saw the opportunity to speak about our design as well. Oh, sorry.
Well, it's a very restrained version of Italian design, isn't it?
I think so. I think we like the classic part of it, not the 90s craziness.
What
That's
about
what
the-
we're
what
trying
ab-
to enhance.
What about Sotsas and
Sort of the
pop?
90s, right? That I think
No,
is more
not the
fun
90s,
and
the
pop.
60s, the 60s,
Yeah.
the 70s. There's much more to it than that.
You're right. I think
And
there's
it-
much more, but I don't think this is the spirit of the brand or of this hotel and the connection with the 50s and 60s in Brazil. But I do appreciate Sotas and
I'm just throwing out names.
Yeah.
It doesn't. But the feeling is that everything's incredibly coordinated and mid-century. So for me, the mid-century flavour comes from the 70s, 80s,
I
and
see.
before, even the 50s.
Yes, I think 50s
but
and in
just-
Brazil at least we would say 50s and 60s. Yeah.
So, but the Fasano brand, is there one in Rio de Janeiro, or am I?
Yes.
Is it on the seafront in Ipanema?
Leblon, yes. Ipanema and Arpoador on the very edge.
And weren't they more radical before the earlier Fasano hotels, or am I mixing that up with? Was there Philip Stark involved?
Yes, I think.
So you're coming behind Philip Stark.
Actually, we came before him, and then they experimented. We did the first hotel in the 90s was our design. 94 it opened actually. Then the Fasano in Rio was actually an inherited building from a developer that already had Philip Stark. And then the interiors were designed in a much calmer way, let's say. So it doesn't really communicate Stark from the beginning. But then we also have Fasanos in Bahia, in Uruguay, and New York, and London is opening now. And I think, I don't think that they are more edgy than this. I think they are very classical in a sense.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking for, is more eclectic, a wider spectrum. But never mind, let's move on to Fred.
Thank you for the presentations. Really enjoyed it, the story, especially the beginning with the video. My focus is typically on architecture, and so I'm curious, with the interior environment, what makes this particular location, or what grounds this hotel in this location with the design? Or was the idea with this design that you could replicate that in any of the hotels around Brazil, or even globally, should it do that? So what makes this hotel design specific to this location?
I think it has a very strong urban accent to it, right? I think the Fasano in Bahia, for instance, there is a resort. It has a lot of natural fibers, a lot of more relaxed sittings. I think here it's a corporate hotel where we had very few contact points between the brand and the user. And I think there's a sobriety, let's say, a seriousness to the environment that I think is very São Paulo, very busy, very urban. That's what I would suggest.
Congratulations on the project. I appreciate that there's a residential feeling and scale to the hotel, and that's a trend in hospitality nowadays. You can see it from the styling, from the layout of the furniture. Was this an intentional strategy for this particular property, or is that a vision of the firm that they want to translate throughout all of your hospitality projects?
I think it is a strong saying from Studio MK27. We have 45 years, like most of them we've been designing houses, and now when we transpose this to hotels, I think this is the intention, to create this feeling of warmth and care. But I also feel that Fasano brand, being a family business, and the kind of service they give is very, very much focused on this feeling at home and feeling very personal, and not just based on efficiency and perhaps values that all the brands would praise.
Thank you for the presentation. I really love the choice of materials and the furnishings and furniture. Really beautiful. So my question is, hotels have evolved over the years and constantly evolving. The needs of travelers have always been changing, right? So how do you think that this hotel is reflective of this change of travelers' patterns?
I think that one thing is the importance of wellness, and the bathrooms got much bigger here. And I think we have sliding panels, and the bathtub area gets very integrated into the room. I would say this could be perhaps a reflection of a different relationship we have to our own perception of self-care. And I think perhaps this would be, but it's difficult to know why we're living it, I think, right?
So just a related and side question. A lot of new hotels these days, they include sort of like a pantry, a kitchenette, where they really want to make you feel like you're at home and you can cook and all that, which to me is a waste of space, because I'm not going to cook when I travel, like, hello. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think here they have just enough, which is the space for you to make your own drink if you want.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nigel.